Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Soupier. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about off-the-grid living, should you have a home base, and about doomsday prepping, since they all kind of tie into each other. Now, I don't live off the grid. I do van life and stuff like that, mainly as, not full-time or any of that jazz, at least not yet full-time. It would be fun to do it full-time. I own property, about 3.5 acres. And my father co-owns it with me, and it's my campsite, or it's a campsite set up for that, but he lives off the grid in let's see here, I think it's a 32-foot, gooseneck, it's got to be like a smaller fifth wheel. That's what I'm looking for. A fifth wheel travel trailer. And it's about 32 feet. It's a nice size, but it's he lives in it full time, and he renovated it, and he did a very good job. Now, he's a Vietnam era veteran, so he never saw combat or anything, but suffers from some psychological issues. And just being out in the country is really best for him. He builds all kinds of stuff with his hands. And he has kind of a little hobby farm because he grew up in the country working with his hands. So it's really healthy for him to be out there. So I was over there the other day, and he was talking with one of his friends. And his friend was talking to me about van life. And to make a long story short, it never really appealed. His friend is a doomsday prepper, and it never really crossed my mind about being a doomsday prepper in a van. And he was talking about how good of an idea it is, to be mobile. It reminded me, I have a friend who is an acquaintance that lives in Hawaii that has a shipping container home, and when Mount Kilauea was starting to explode, they ended up just closing up everything in the shipping container home, and their home was pretty much in one piece when they got back, where a lot of houses burned right down. They started on fire and all this other jazz, and I thought that was pretty neat. But if there's ever, I don't mean to laugh at it, if there's ever like a nuclear attack or like a doomsday prepper, I think of like zombie apocalypse or something like that. If there's ever something like that, being mobile has tons of advantages, and I thought that was pretty neat. So the property I co-own is, it's got electricity and stuff like that, and it's pretty nice. Where should you buy property in the U.S.? Well, that's an entirely different video, and I've done tons of research on it. I'd give you guys my opinion, but that's for another video. Should you guys actually have a home base? I personally think it's a great idea. I was watching a Bob Wells video, Cheap RV Living, on should you have a home base, and he's got a much better perspective on it because he actually has a home base than somebody like me. And I just think it's a really good idea, but find a place that allows you to kind of live off the grid, with not a lot of zoning laws and stuff like that, because I'm personally not a fan of zoning laws. I'm not a fan of being a nuisance to your neighbors also, but I can understand where some zoning laws might come into be beneficial, but I think they do more harm than good. So that's just my personal take on that. Just like HOAs and stuff like that, you'd never catch me living in a place with an HOA or renting a piece of property from somebody to live on. So that's my take on it. Stay tuned because I'm going to release another video. One thing I forgot to mention. So if there's ever like a nuclear attack or something like that, he was talking about that. You could just pack up everything you own and just move. I'm thinking like weather events, in the back of my head, like a tornado or a wildfire. I had a friend down in California that lost everything he worked for in a wildfire, and he's got to pay all this money for insurance just in case if there is a wildfire. Whereas a car, the insurance isn't. I don't know what they compare in price and cost, to some places that have a lot of flooding, like Florida. Like flood insurance and stuff like that, I know can get very expensive. But my friend lost everything he owned in a wildfire, and that was just crazy. I couldn't imagine that. Whereas if somebody was in a van, or they were just kind of living in a van, they could pack up everything really quickly and just boom, move, and then they could come back when it goes through, and then they could, decide if they want to sell the property, or they want to rebuild there or whatever, if they had a home base. So I think that's just kind of nice being mobile, and I think a lot of people in this generation want to be more mobile, which is kind of neat as well. So yeah, thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for my next video where I'm going to talk a little bit about the some of the best places in the United States to go off the grid, in my opinion, or the best states and the worst states off the grid. So thanks again. You guys take care. Make sure you like and subscribe.